Yo, what's up, guys? Joker bringing you another video. This is going to be kind of a rant video, and I'm sorry if I look like or sound like shit. I just haven't been able to sleep. So I figured, hey, might as well put up a video. And the first thing that came to mind is the 3.25 expansion, right? And I've been thinking about it a lot since I've commented on it a few times. The fact that it's another 4 month league that we don't get anything until the end of July, and it's going to feel like forever, especially with no end of league events. But in that meantime, in that downtime, I wanted to go ahead and get my bingo card ready, right? So that's essentially what I'm going over with you guys real quick and go over my thought process. If you don't know, it's kind of like a meme game, right? With the live stream announcements of what we expect to get for 3.2 whatever, right? Every league, people throw together bingo cards of things that they're expecting to see with the announcement. And since I wanted to make sure that I had this up before the 3.25 announcement, which I have 3 weeks until the 3.25 announcement, but I wanted to go ahead and make sure that I got this done because I'd probably get busy and forget about it. Let's go over it, right? So, like I was saying, we have a 4 month league. A couple of weeks ago, GGG put out this notification saying, hey, this is going to be another 4 month league. 3.25 is going to be coming at the end of July. You'll receive the announcement in the middle of July, right? And as of today, it is June 21st. So I'm assuming around here, right? The 19th, like the 12th or the 19th is when I'm assuming that we're going to get it because it says that the league itself is at the end of July, right? Late July. So I'm assuming that we're going to probably get it on the 19th of July is when we're going to get the announcement for the league, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of things here. So, first and foremost, tier 17 nerfs, right? I think that they're going to get fairly heavily nerfed because they're just not in a good spot. I ran a poll a couple days or weeks ago. I don't know how long ago I put it up, asking if you guys thought like were T17s good for the health of PoE, and it was overwhelmingly positive that you guys were saying like no, we don't think it's a good thing. So and that's understandable. I ran a couple of T17 maps, and the character that I had to use to run the T17 maps was the splitting tuna splitting still character, right? And it had like 300 to 500 divines worth of investment, which I've already stated I know is not normal for an average player to even obtain. So that means that the vast majority of the player base was just directly locked out of that content because I know an average player is not going to get 3 to 500 divines. So let alone for in the league, let alone for one character, right? So T17s, I see them getting nerfed pretty heavily, right? I hope this is actually like seeable here. Let me try to make this a little bit bigger. Um, T17 maps are going to get a nerf. I'm calling it right now. Up next, we have blade changes, right? Uh, 325 is supposed to have a melee rework, right? So, one of the things that I thought of in the melee archetype was melee bleed, and trying to get it defined to like a melee only playstyle. Because right now, you really don't do anything with a melee bleed. So I feel like there might be some bleed changes coming. Plus, there's not a whole lot of bleed stuff going on right now. And I think they are trying to balance a lot of stuff into more of a viability, right? They're trying to make everything more viable. So, once again, it was already stated that 3.25 should have some melee changes. So, I'm assuming with the melee changes, it's either going to be better melee scaling or easier crafting on melee weapons. I don't know if you remember, but I want to say like 3.18 or something. There was a bow rework, right? Something that changed bows and brought bows into viability, and a big part of that was the crafting for them. I think something similar like that is going to be done to the melee weapons, I'm assuming, if they really plan on doing like an easy way of getting melee more viable, because the way that they changed bows made it so bows are like the most viable archetype right now, right? The other thing, that which was taken returns, right? I have a feeling that that which was taken is going to be coming back, especially when we have things like the adorned, right? The adorned kind of outclasses that which was taken in power alone. So if they're leaving that in, then there's no reason why they can't bring that which was taken back. And this opens up not only another slot for a chase unique, it opens up a lot more build diversity, right? Because some of these jewels were fucking nutty. So if you do something crazy, you can have some like really insane off meta builds just using like an adorned and a that which was taken. Those two jewels alone would give you enough power to make pretty much almost any build viable. New melee trans gems, right? I feel like we're going to get a lot of new melee transfigure gems, probably like Earthquake or something like that. With the melee skill gems, there's like some, but there's not anything that I was looking at that was like overwhelmingly good, right? So maybe we could get like a better cleave, I don't know, a better cyclone, because some of these transfigure gems that already exist are like okay, but like I expect better. So see, actually we do have a lot of transfigured melee gems. So maybe we won't get any more. It would have to be a new skill because most of these actually have a transfigured version. So never mind on that. I still feel like we're going to get some transfigured gems, but I don't know when it's going to be. Next three changes are going to be classes and ascendancies that I personally reference when I think of melee. And that's going to be like the Berserker. I misspelled Berserker. Berserker, Raider, and Gladiator, right? Raider and Gladiator are kind of dead right now. They're not in a good spot. And those are two of the classes that I'd personally associate with more of a melee play style, right? Berserker is, in my opinion, a more melee play style too. So I feel like we might see changes to these three, especially since like the Chieftain already got a rework. I feel like we might see one of these three at the very least get some kind of changes. Other than that, buffs while in melee distance, right? I feel like if they're really working on making melee a thing, then buffs or some kind of benefit while in melee distance would be a huge incentive to go a melee build, because right now there's really no reason to get in melee distance of bosses, because if you do, you're gonna die, right? Every league we usually get some kind of bossing. Well, not every league, but a lot of the last couple of leagues we've received some kind of bossing content, and it seems like they've been really leaning towards adding more and more bosses, the T17 maps, all of that. So I have a feeling we're going to get a new pinnacle boss. I just have a feeling, right? And then sadly, more lame ass slams or shouts. You can probably tell by that phrasing that I'm not a huge fan of slams and shouts. Like, I just don't like the piano play style. It's fucking annoying in my opinion. Even with Call to Arms, I still wouldn't like a slam play style. In my opinion, it's just way too slow for me, right? I like zooming, right? I don't want to use one attack every 2 seconds. Even if that one attack one shots everything, it still, in my opinion, feels clunky and slow. Melee totem changes. I've been reading and looking around. A lot of people feel like there is going to be something changing with totems. And I feel like that is true because right now, for any kind of melee build, you do have to have an ancestral protector and an ancestral war chief, right? The fact that you have to have these totems on top of you have to have these shouts. I really hope something changes about these. Um, a big one, right, that I really think might come is a rework or rage changes, just because of the fact that right now, so many archetypes besides melee are benefiting from rage. Like a lot of the melee archetypes, you're not really even using rage right now. So I feel like they're going to do something to rage to make it more in line or more beneficial when you're actually using rage, because right now you can use casters and rage really effectively, you can use bow characters with rage really effectively. You're not using melee characters with rage as effectively, so I feel like there's going to be some change there. I brought it up before. The the adorned is just like beyond broken, right? It's just incredibly fucking powerful. You can't even see this here. Uh let me move me over here real quick. So the Adorned is just like incredibly fucking broken. It's the strongest jewel in the game, hands down, and it's just insane. So I feel like it's going to see some kind of nerfs because, like I was mentioning with that which was taken, you can slot in a good that which was taken and a good Adorned, and that's your build right there. You can fucking make up the other shit and still have a viable build just because of the power of those two jewels, right? And it's not even a gear slot you're giving up for this. It's a jewel slot on the passive tree, which at most, majority of the time, is two passive skill points. And the power you get for those two passive skill points is just insane. So I feel like we're gonna see an adorned nerf. Um, Detonate Dead. I mean, I hope it gets nerfed. It's just been way too strong for way too long. There's no reason, in my opinion, that Detonate Dead should be as strong as it is, especially with the new cast on crit Detonate Dead. That was it Rue? Was it Rue that made it, or was it, I don't know. Somebody made a fucking super OP cast on crit build with Detonate Dead, and it was just beyond broken. Everybody was saying it was like the lowest investment needed to do like all content in the game, and Detonate Dead's just been overpowered for a while. It needs to be brought down, right? One thing that I do hope we see is a multi-strike buff. Multi-strike is cool, but I feel like if they are planning on buffing melee, multi-strike buffs would be one of the easiest ways to do this. Having it be where, like, I don't know, multi-strike will go off on the same like tick or something. I've been playing a lot of RuneScape. I know that's not the correct terminology, but you can probably get what I mean, right? Like having just multi-strike be buffed in general is going to be really cool, and it would be one of the easiest ways to buff melee. um Mage blood nerfs is something that I see coming, especially with the flash changes. Mage blood is nerfed, but it is still incredibly strong. And I don't think they like that fact. So I feel like Mage Blood is going to see some hits. I mean, look at Headhunter, right? Headhunter was like the best mapping belt in the game, and they gutted it because they didn't like how the Headhunter performed. So, since Mage Blood is now just literally best in slot for any in game build, I feel like they are going to try to nerf it to bring some other belts into viability, like the Tides of Time or whatever that new belt is called, right? That goes ahead and it's like the Mage Blood at home, right? Because it is kind of a Mage Blood at home, but it is also different from a Mage Blood because this has the ability of utility flask gaining charges, and it's not where it's only you're not only banking on Magic Flask, right? With Mage Blood, you're banking on the fact that all of your flasks are magic, but with something like Tides of Time, you're able to use unique flask, and I think that that's something that they are trying to promote, especially because of the fact that there is probably three unique flasks that people actually used. What Taste of Hate, Progenosis, and Dying Sun. Those are the only three unique flasks that people actually use. But with something like the Tides of Time, other unique flasks could actually have a viability, right? So, especially if they bring the power of the mage blood down in general. Because, in my opinion, even a 2 or 3 flask mage blood is insanely strong. So, even if they cut it down to a 2 or 3 flask mage blood, it would be best in slot still, but it would be significantly weaker. More T17s. I don't think they're going to give up on T17s. I think they're going to widen the pool, bring the power level of T17s down quite a lot, but then just add a whole bunch more maps to this pool, right? Archmage nerfs, right? Archmage is incredibly strong. I started with a ball lightning Hierophant, uh, my, and it was fucking insane. Like Archmage is overtuned right now. It needed it. Like it really needed the buff. Like there was no love and no support for such a long time, but now it is overtuned. So I feel like it is going to get hit. Same thing with bows. Bows were in a really bad spot. Like I was mentioning previous, I want to say it was like around 3.18. I don't know. At this point, I played Path of Exile so long, I don't even remember when the bow rework happened. But prior to the bow rework happening, bows really weren't played. And then after the bow rework happened, bow shot up to like the most played archetype in Path of Exile. And I feel like if they really want to balance it out, what they're going to do is they're going to kind of squish it. They're going to probably buff melee a little bit, and they're just going to bring the top end down. That's sadly what I feel like they're going to do. Another alternative is melee based Uber uniques, right? Give some of the Uber bosses like a good Uber unique for melee. Because right now, besides Void Forge and like Star Forge, I don't think there's like any unique melee weapon that you would use realistically over just like a really good crafted rare weapon, right? So I feel like if they add an uber unique melee weapon that's really good, it may add more viability as well. Because right now in endgame, I don't see you using a unique melee weapon. You're always going to use a crafted weapon like 100% of the time. Melee support gems, also something super, super easy for them to go ahead and implement. because the fact that that's really what melee needs right now, just like with the multi-strike buff and the better melee scaling, like all of these kind of group together in more melee support gyms. Because right now there's not a super ton of effective, well-rounded melee support gyms. Like I could probably count them on one hand, the amount of melee support gems that you would actually use. And I'm not counting things like Trinity and stuff like that, right? Because that's not really a melee support gem. That's just a support gem that works with melee. So I mean something like melee specific support gems because there's not a whole lot of those that are actually really good. Um, Scarab nerfs, right? Last thing is going to be scarab nerfs. I love the scarab rework. I love that it allows us to play the game how we want, but I don't feel like scarabs are in a good or balanced spot right now. So I feel like a scarab rework is something that is going to be needed, right? I feel like some scarabs are way too strong and some scarabs are way too weak. A good example is the scarabs that force mechanics that we can already have on the map device. So things like the scarab that give you a harvest, right? Since we already have 100% harvest on the map device, that's literally just a dead scarab, right? If you're specking into a harvest, there's no reason you're not going to get 100% on the map device as opposed to using the scarab. So they could do a thing where they allow us to have like two harvests per map if they're going to keep it and have it additive like that, right? Where those scarabs, instead of giving us a sacred grove or a blight or a whatever, where they go ahead and they just give us an extra blight or an extra harvest, which I feel like might be overtuned, but right now scarabs are already overtuned anyways. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I mentioned, super quick rant video going over my bingo card. I'm assuming that at least a couple of these things will probably be hit, right? Um, the Adorned nerf, Archmage nerf, Scarab nerfs, those are what I'm going to be putting my money on, right? That's what I'm going to be betting on actually happening. Some of these other things I feel like would be nice. I mean, lame ass slams and shouts, I feel like is going to be a thing because GGG seems to be leaning really heavily towards melee slams being the way they want to do melee. Since the last support we got for melee has all been slam support, right? But yeah, like I said, pretty much just recapping this, getting this out now. That way I don't forget about it in the future. And once again, I do apologize about the tone or the tiredness. If I look like shit, it's sleep. What is it? Sleep depression. Nope. I mean, kind of, but deprivation, that's the word I was looking for. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.